On a guess, lend me your ears.
A lot has changed in gaming since the original Dragon's Dogma graced the industry way back in 2012, so much so that I was generally concerned the sequel would struggle to find its footing. We have had RPGs that will stand the test of time. The Witcher 3 redefined storytelling, and Elden Ring set the bar for open world games with its incredible sense of discovery. So what could Dragon's Dogma do in order to be its own star?
Your Majesty, oh how long I have awaited this moment.
It turns out nothing at all, because the original is still one of the wackiest Japanese RPGs ever made, and the sequel repeats all of its greatness with a bit more ambition. It is familiar while at the same time feels more expansive than before. Not to mention the pawns are the game's stars thanks to their robotic behavior and unhinged characteristics. Completely detached from the original game, Dragon's Dogma kicks off as you, the Arisen, escape a slave encampment and are whisked away to the nation of Venworth. It seems that another Arisen exists in this kingdom, and as lore goes, there can only be one true Arisen alive at any given time. So you set off to find out who this other Arisen is and what the deal is. Of course, as the Arisen, you also have the powers to summon pawns to your side. Right from the start, the game wanted me to feel like the Arisen, and I did. I was able to summon pawns to aid me in combat, quest completion, and other gameplay mechanics. Each pawn is also unique and comes with various traits that are useful at different times. Pawns are an important aspect of Dragon's Dogma 2. You get one main pawn which travels alongside you throughout the game. However, the other two pawns are swapped out at any random time. You can either pick up a pawn who is just walking by you, or head to the Rift Stone and dive into the metaverse of pawns. Here you'll find various pawns who are waiting to be hired.
An unexpected reunion, but
These pawns include Capcom created versions and other main pawns created by other players around the world. A pawn takes on the same appearance and equipment as the updated version. So say a friend has a pawn, you can bring them along. If a friend gets better equipment for that pawn, you simply send the pawn you have away and summon it again with the updated gear.
But myriad others with which we can connect. As your loyal pawn, my duty is to accompany you and use what I learn in these other realms to aid you on your journey. What manner of madness is this?
It is a great system and follows very much in line with the original game. Some pawns come with useful traits, including the ability to speak Elvish, highlight certain gather points on the map, and of course their vocation, which determines their skill set. A new feature in Dragon's Dogma 2 lets pawns help you during the exploration and quest solving too. Say a pawn had adventured with a player who has completed a quest you're currently tackling. That pawn will then tell you they know where to go. You can then press the go command and it will scurry to the location.
I've a knack for combining materials that I hope you'll find useful. I'll craft aught I can using what's in my pack.
The same goes for chests and rift stones. If the pawn has discovered them in another world, meaning other players' games, it will pop up and tell you that you're near the location. You can then opt to follow it or just ignore it.
such a thing escaped my master's notice entirely.
Of course, this does come with some annoyances. Simply put, the pawns don't shut the f up. They often repeat the same line over and over again.
I shall have to inform my own master of this.
I was doing a quest which I can't mention in the review, and each pawn had no knowledge of the quest. They took turns telling me how they had no knowledge of this quest and how I should hire a pawn that did, but they repeated this line every few seconds. I won't lie, it gets pretty obnoxious.
The Arisen is capricious indeed, but don't despair. We shall count upon your guidance when the time comes.
It also takes away from the exploration at times. There were moments when I just wanted to walk about and enjoy the world, but the pawn always had something to say, be it they collected a flower or how much they loved me or what happened in their past adventures. The dialogue is fun for the first 35 hours, but after a while it does get very tiresome. But the pawns do have their moments of greatness. The sheer randomness of their behavior is something I would laugh about at times. I remember picking up my pawn to toss them over a ledge. She screamed, "My lord, what has gotten into you?" as I clutched her and threw her like a log. She then hit the wall and fell to her death. It was pretty hysterical. To see pawns being thrown in the air or drop-kicked by trolls is pure comedy hour too. To add, these pawns swear their lives to you, so somehow they seem to enjoy these crazy moments in combat. So while I was being burnt alive by a dragon, I would see my pawn flying through the air as she was whipped by its tail. You don't find these moments often in gaming. Of course, a big focus for Dragon's Dogma 2 is its world and escaping to a land unknown. Vernworth and its neighbouring nation Batal are vast open areas with a true sense of discovery. The game's day and night cycle also returns from the original and delivers a different gameplay encounter depending on when you set off to explore the great lands ahead. At night, the world is dangerous with zombies walking through the hills and skeleton armies causing havoc on the innocent, not to mention the few surprise boss fights that appear out of nowhere. It also doesn't help that the darkness of the night makes it difficult to see where you're going because you only have a limited oil lantern to light up the area around you. During the day, on the other hand, the threat is just as real. Goblins make camps around the area ahead, harpies flock around trees, and bandits hide around every corner waiting to strike. I think the sheer unexpectedness of Dragon's Dogma 2's world is where the real joy is found. Every trip out of the town or settlement was met with some crazy encounter with an ogre, troll, dragon or a bunch of goblins that made my life hell. At times I felt as if everything wanted to kill me in the most bizarre way. Even a typical fight with the golem, which took place atop a mountain, resulted in me tumbling off the cliff face to the land below while I was latched onto its head. Keep in mind that clinging onto a fierce opponent is already nerve-wracking. Falling from the sky to the depths below while attached to it and stabbing its weak point in the face felt like a grand encounter seen in great movies. Sure, some fights do get easier as the game progresses. Enemies become more like fodder, but there's often a griffin or a dragon circling above, and spotting the casted shadow right in front of you always struck fear in my toes. Knowing there was this threat in the sky above often caused me to flee, mainly because I always found myself in the situation where I had low health and supplies. There was no way I was attempting to fell these beasts in this state. I spent most of my gameplay in Dragon's Dogma 2 playing the Magic Spear hand. However, there are multiple vocations in the game you can unlock and many to choose from right from the start. You can also switch vocations at any time across your character and main pawn. This allows for some great freedom when it comes to the combat and even exploration. The mage, for example, casts powerful destructive spells and can heal players. However, it can also levitate in the air to reach new areas. The magic spear hand can also dash across large gaps in a strike attack, which helped me get around too. Essentially, you would want a group of pawns around to tackle combat effectively, but that doesn't stop you from going with only archers or mages. It will just affect how you tackle combat encounters. Speaking of which, combat in Dragon's Dogma 2 is incredibly fun. It is clumsy, don't get me wrong. It relies on combining traversal attacks and grappling to kill beasts. Some enemies such as the golem can only be damaged if you hit certain weak spots on their body, so I was forced to climb them and make my way to these spots in order to stab them. Climbing depletes stamina and holding onto an enemy does so too. So it is a juggling act between attacking, climbing, standing on the enemy to refill your stamina bar where possible, and watching out for whiplash attacks which may throw you off. It all results in a combat system that can get a little chaotic. When you die or take heavy damage, your health bar is also permanently dropped. You can refill it by camping or sleeping at an inn, but until then you're stuck with a lower health pool. It makes the next encounters even more daunting. Of course, that's when the nighttime thrill arrives or a dragon drops from the sky. Much of this then feeds into Dragon's Dogma 2's planning system. A trip from one town to the next isn't easy. You can take the ox cart, which may get invaded and destroyed in the middle of the trip. You can also fast travel, but fairy stones are very rare. Of course, you can also go on foot. This gets even more stressful late in the game when you're traveling from a different nation. It takes 2 or 3 days to get from one town to the next, and the in-between experiences are never the same. Combat encounters change, random quests pop up, and the threat of the world is always looming over me. Even camping at night has a risk of your campsite being invaded by enemies. You can then lose your camp and you're left in the dark. You can then camp again, but the chances of you carrying 2 camping kits are quite slim given how heavy they are. Questing offers a similar risk system due to the timed mechanics too. Some quests can fail if you don't act in haste, while others just fail if you move too far in the story. I have to say I was a bit annoyed by this. There's no indication of the latter quest, so often I moved on in the game thinking the objective was in the next town, only for the quest to fail. Some of these quests are also unclear on their objectives. One said I had to return to Malv every few days after the town was attacked by a dragon. I spent hours doing this in between other activities and nothing was happening. So naturally I just moved on thinking I would come back later, and then the quest failed. Of course, I think the push here is to replay Dragon's Dogma 2 a few times to truly experience everything the game has to offer, and there's quite a lot of it. The world alone is beautifully designed and the sense of exploration creates some real shining moments. Every hill holds a secret, and standing on the top of a mountain and overlooking the distance below reveal dozens of little secrets I could not wait to discover. Be prepared to get lost in this game. But it isn't all good news. Dragon's Dogma 2 still has its issues. There's a clear lack of quality of life features in the game. Inventory management is archaic and relies on micromanaging every single item one by one. The simplest thing like moving an item from your inventory to your stash takes way too long, as you can't select a batch of items. The same goes for moving one item to a pawn and vice versa. Some quests also get frustrating with no clear direction on what to do. I get the whole push for exploration and discovery, but when a quest says return every few days and you do that with no idea why and the quest fails, it does waste time.
There are useful ingredients to be gathered here, I'll wager.
No harm in picking a few. This is generally used as a material.
Different combinations of materials result in different creations.
There's also the irritating pawns that honestly get a little too much after a while. Capcom needs to implement a dialogue switch where you can tone down the amount of nonsense these things speak. It often takes away from the world.
I've got a good feeling about this one.
Never to keep up, though we are less fleet of foot.
I've got a good feeling about this one. You would gather materials here, Master. Can we really afford to carry more?
Ingredients are plentiful hereabouts.
I say we collect as much as we can carry.
Yon path leads not to our destination. If you would prefer to explore, I shall guide you another time.
The Arisen is capricious indeed. But don't despair. We shall count upon your guidance when the time comes.
Of course, I have to touch on the performance issues in Dragon's Dogma 2 because it isn't great. The game on PS5 suffers from some nasty frame rate issues. In combat, things get a little rough, with the frame rate dropping under 20 FPS during fights. The magic spear hand has an aimed attack that is charged. When these performance issues popped up, this attack was often unusable. These issues are found in towns too. Just walking through the town would often see the frame rate drop to the low 20s. There are also issues with the camera. Often it would go into walls when I was fighting enemies. This is especially an issue in caves and houses. The camera would stay there while I tried to fend off enemies. It gets annoying very quickly. These performance issues do take away from the game experience, and I wish they weren't there. I could only imagine how an archer would feel trying to aim shots with sporadic frames all over the place. It just doesn't look good. Even with the performance hiccups aside, some issues in Dragon's Dogma 2 do make the game feel a bit dated. The same inventory management and limited quest direction from a game back in 2012 is present in a game in 2024. Surely some changes could have been made here. These dated features do nothing but hinder the rest of the game's good traits. Dragon's Dogma 2 is wacky at times. There's a good RPG here to discover and a world worth exploring. You'll have to put up with some of the questionable gameplay design choices to get through it all, but thankfully those are far and few between. I do recommend the game, but I do hope the performance gets sorted soon. So those are my thoughts on Dragon's Dogma 2. Are you looking to pick this game up? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're here, please do consider liking and subscribing for more future content, and visit glitch.online for more gaming tech news and reviews. Until next time, farewell.
Ingredients are plentiful hereabouts.
Shall we see if there's aught to be found while we're here?